starting a relationship with God can be different for people in different scenarios. And I want to give you in today's video 3 different examples of different people in the Bible who had a relationship with God and how it basically got started. Now, reading the Bible is a very beneficial way to start a relationship with God. And if you want help learning how to master the Bible for yourself, as we like to say, get a copy of our free Bible Mastery Guide in the description box below. So a really popular person in the Bible is a man by the name of Abraham. But what many people don't know is before he got the name of Abraham, he actually started with his name as Abram. Now, the reason this is really significant is because Abraham was a person who was ultimately called by God consecutive times. He didn't listen the first time God was calling him. And this is a really powerful scenario for especially people thinking about the faith and really don't know too much about how to actually start a relationship with God. One thing you should understand is, and this is applicable to everyone, those that were raised in a Christian household and those who were not raised in a Christian household, God is continually calling us over and over again. One way to start your relationship with God is to really start finding out what are the different ways God is actually calling you, and then not only finding out these different ways, but when you actually get to realizing that God has actually been calling you in these different ways, a video like this, for example, could be one of the ways God is actually calling you. The fact of the matter is, when Abraham decided to actually listen to what God was actually saying, that meant for him leaving family, leaving certain friends, leaving his country of origin. And this isn't to say that God is going to necessarily call you to leave your family and your friends and the country you're born in, but the point is, even someone who was not raised believing in God reached the pinnacle in many cases in regards to just belief in God from the Bible perspective. So I want you to understand, the reason I gave you this example is it doesn't have to be someone who was raised in a Christian environment, who was raised knowing about God. The fact of the matter is, one way you can start to grow your relationship or start a relationship with God is just by actively thinking about the different ways God is actually calling you. And when you realize the different ways God is actually calling you, taking action on those callings. Another way which is really interesting is in the New Testament, a man named Cornelius. Now, Cornelius, again, just like Abraham, didn't start off being raised in what would seem to be like a Christian or a godly household. What we find out about Cornelius in the Bible is even before he came to believe and trust in Jesus specifically, right, as the Christians do today, he had a relationship with God, and he was building his relationship with God by doing what? Now, some of the things we know that Cornelius was doing before he came to saving faith in Jesus was he was giving himself over to prayers, to fasting, and ultimately to helping out the poor with much alms deeds. Now, the fact of the matter is this: you may not know explicitly how God may talk to you, right? The first example I gave you in regards to Abraham may be a bit overwhelming. Well, this is where a scenario like Cornelius gives you a lot of ample insights into how to actually start and actually build a relationship with God. Why? Because he was a guy, he didn't know about Jesus, but he heard about God. He knew enough about God to do what? To focus on giving to the poor, taking care of those in need. He focused on praying to God ultimately, and he focused on fasting as well. So these are just 3 ways. As you begin to build a relationship with God, as you begin to try and learn more about God, these are 3 ways even a guy from the Bible, you can see it as Cornelius, was doing actively before he even came to the saving faith in Jesus. So why not take up any of those 3 things, and don't do these things from like a publicity standpoint, just to do these things so people can see you. That would be the worst reason to actually do these things. These are the kind of things you would do as you build your relationship with God, knowing that these are the kind of things that God expects and loves from his believers. As Christians, as those that have a deeper relationship with God, we should focus on helping those in need on a day-to-day basis in whatever way or shape or form that actually is. We should focus on praying actively, which Cornelius was actually doing, even though he didn't know everything explicitly right, just for the record at the time. And fasting is another vital thing which can be beneficial for those who are trying to start a relationship with God. Now, the third example, which I think is really insightful as well, especially if you really didn't come from like a Christian upbringing or anything like that, and you're looking to start and build a relationship with God. These people were classified as very superstitious, and this is relatable to many people today, because you have people today, you may be one of them, who may want to start a relationship with God, may want to build a relationship with God, but you don't know what to do or how to start. But you have some sort of understanding about God. This is why in certain cases you'll have people that will be around Christians, for example, and will say, you know what, I'm not going to swear. Why? Because They don't know necessarily everything the Bible says, but they know Christians may try to stop themselves from swearing and talking with foul language. They may not watch certain things around these particular Christians because they know, you know what, Christians try to abstain from watching things that may cause them to sin. The fact of the matter is, these are different superstitions. You may go to church 2 times in a year, for example, at Christmas time or on Easter Sunday, for example. These are people that go to church maybe casually or know casual things about the Christian faith, but really don't know too much about God. The fact of the matter is, these people in Athens, one of the things they actually did to grow the relationship with God was literally casting away many of the false idols and false belief systems they actually held to focus on the one true God. So ultimately, when it comes to starting a relationship with God, you may have to set aside certain things, certain idols you may have in your life, and we all have idols in different ways. The goal is to find out what those idols are as quickly as possible and try to remove them, all right? So we're not caught up in idolatry. Covetousness, for example, is a form of idolatry. So if you spend your days desiring and looking at other people and hoping and desiring that one day you can get exactly what they have, just for no other reason other than the fact that they have it, that is a form of idolatry. And even just reading the Bible merely by itself is a great way for you to start your relationship with God. And you'll be surprised at how many different ways you can actually find yourself reading the Bible while enjoying it too. Would you like 8?